If you're a rugby fan, then I think that you are going to love the guest that we have on today. We have a great friend and brilliant rugby player, Ali Price.
Yeah, I mean, job done. We came here to get 5 points, and that's what we've managed to achieve.
And Ali Price may go all the way around the outside.
We have the ability to be a very good team.
Ali Price is going to score again.
50 caps, player of the match.
What's going on here? Price is able to waltz his way through.
Who's the most intimidating player in the sport?
Glasgow played against Montpellier a few years ago, and they had a guy called Nemani Ndolo, who's a winger. It's one of them ones where you just have to kind of put your head in the spokes and hope for the best. I have this conversation with my missus quite a lot. She's watching the Euros, and it's like, you should get paid more for what you get paid for these guys.
We were chatting about like social media and some of the criticism that people then can get.
You know, there's people saying that I needed to refund their ticket money and I should never play again. And at that point, it was the first time I'd had kind of this kind of hate or criticism.
Before we start this podcast, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that like button, subscribe button, 5-star button, whatever it is, wherever you are, I'd really appreciate it. It helps us so much more than you know. And the more subscribers we get and the more follows and 5 stars we get, the more brilliant guests we can get on. My name is Harrison Brown, and this is the Into the Mind podcast. If you're watching or listening, I hope this helps. You know, something funny that I figured out today is that the most Googled question about you is about your tattoos.
Oh, and I'm wearing a hoodie. You can't see any. You can't see any of them.
But I looked up, I was doing some research, and I looked up Ali Price, and the first Google result is tattoos. I was thinking, like, we were in Magaluf together.
Yeah.
You got your tattoo.
Yeah.
Which one did you get? Was
I
the
got
back?
a couple,
It's like an infinity sign, isn't it?
Yeah. Got these two. This one was
that in
my
Magaluf?
big cousin. Yeah, it was in Magaluf. Yeah, I decided that watercolours were a good idea.
Couple of drinks
that
down.
night, anyway. Yeah. But all of them are pretty random, to be honest. It was.
Do they mean anything, or is it like, is it just nah?
No, not really. Like, these ones are all just random ones, and the one on my triceps.
They're coordinates.
Oh, sorry. So this one's pretty mean. This is where I was born.
All right. Okay.
This one. Yeah, the one on my tricep, the smiley face. That's just random. And then I got this is my most recent one, actually. Don't know if you can see it.
That's nice.
Me and Annie, and then the moon for Luna, our daughter. So that's pretty special.
Yeah, that would be special.
Yeah, that's the most recent one. That's probably my best one as well, to be fair.
Yeah, well, I suppose
done.
Professionally done, right?
Yeah.
Where did you get it?
I got it done in Edinburgh.
Yeah, like a professional place.
Yeah, I can't remember the lady's name, the tattoo artist, but that was pretty special. I got that for my birthday, actually. Annie got me that for my birthday. So.
Was it expensive? I know that my pal Andrew.
Well, I don't know. It was
one.
a present, so
all right, good.
So I don't know. I didn't look at the price.
Right, fair enough. What are your thoughts? Scotland team at the moment. The typical question for a podcast, the first thing of a podcast. But what are your kind of like thoughts
in terms of the summer tour now, or the place where the team's at?
Well, yeah, where it's at, where it's going.
I think, as we'll see I know the boys on the summer tour at the moment, it's got some experience in there, but it's also now got a lot of younger guys getting experience. So I think in terms of the future, they played their first game last week against Canada, and you know the result was brilliant, and the future looks good. There's a lot of young guys coming up. In terms of where the current group of players are. It's a tough one to answer, because I feel like we've said it for the last couple of years, which is probably the frustrating thing, is that we have the ability, like we have all the pieces to be a very good team, a very competitive team, and challenge for silverware and trophies, and you know the margins are so fine within these big games, the 1 or 2 games, and at the moment we're not quite getting those right. Which ultimately costs you Six Nations, it costs you progressing in World Cups, and I think that's just kind of finding that last piece of the puzzle to be talked about as one of those sort of top 4, top 5 teams consistently. I think that's what we're just missing at the moment. But in terms of the group, it's all there. It's just finding that. I think if you look at how Glasgow performed this season and their run into winning the URC, going to Munster away, winning, and then the final in South Africa against the Bulls, and winning that, I think that was a massive achievement for a Scottish side. And the confidence that those boys especially would have got from that, I think will be really valuable moving forward. And a lot of those players are key members of the Scotland team, and they're young guys as well that have got the next sort of 4, 5, 6 years to really settle into the national team and hopefully push it on, to be honest.
You don't play with Harry Patterson, do you?
Yes.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
By the way, see, for like a young, what age is he? 20?
2021, he's young, isn't he?
So young, and he had such a good game. Was it against France?
It was funny. So I wasn't playing that game, but I was 24th man, so I was in the team hotel that morning. And he wasn't originally down to play, but Carl Staines' partner was due to give birth at any point. And
right, okay.
It was that morning
Priorities.
of the France test.
Yeah.
So obviously, you go to the birth of your first child and
Rugby or my first child?
and so I believe Gregor called Harry that morning.
Yeah.
And he was meant to be 24th man as well, but he was in the team hotel and he got the call, and I think the story was that he'd already had most of his breakfast before he got the call, but then he got the call, and then that was him off to his room, and but I think that was the best, like, knowing him, he's a great guy and he's a brilliant player, but giving him less time to think about what was about to happen was probably not the worst outcome.
It's less like anxiety inducing. Like, I feel like if you're that young a kid playing at that high a level, you'd be shitting yourself.
Well, yeah, and if you found out the team on like the Tuesday, you've got a few days to build yourself up. But he knew all his roles, and I think Gregor was quoted in saying he had like one of the best debuts he's seen from a guy on a first cap. It's Six Nations against France. It's a pretty good stage to do it on. So I was super pleased for him.
Mate, it's incredible. I mean, what age were you when you first got your cap?
I was 23, I think. Yeah, 23. So 7 years ago now.
And how did you feel about? So you were, when I met you, was that your first game when I met you?
Yeah, potentially. I got capped in the November of, I don't know what season that would be. 16, 17 season. Yeah. The November I played against Georgia, November series. So Greg Laidlaw was captain, and he was the 9 at the time. And we played 3 games against Australia, Argentina, and then Georgia was the last game. And I sat on the bench for the Australia and Argentina games. They were both close games.
Yeah.
We just lost to Australia, just won against Argentina, and it didn't get on. And so it was the last game of the autumn, and I was like, please. And got the last 7 or 8 minutes, I think, of that Georgia game.
Is that like anxiety? Like, what talk me through the feeling? Because if you're sitting, I suppose when you're sitting in the bench, it's almost like, when you need to do a speech or like talk to someone, but you have like an hour before it, and you're just sitting there and you're building anxiety, or like waiting in the dentist office and you're like, what happens if they need to operate?
Like, you're nervous. I was super nervous, but it's strange. Like, my feeling is always like, okay, if you're on the bench, touch wood, no one gets injured.
Yeah.
You can kind of get to half time. You know that you're not going on before half time. But then as soon as half time finishes and you like go out for a run around and then you sit on the bench for the last 40 minutes, you're like, okay, at some point your name's probably going to get called and you're going to go on. But it was more excitement, especially for my debut. Like I said, the first 2 games of that series I hadn't gone on, but I'd been involved. And the first 2 games were at Murrayfield, and they were obviously my first experiences of kind of being there and being in a Scotland squad, and I think it helped almost, because then come the third game, I just was raring to go. Like I wanted to just get my foot over the line, get a cap.
Yeah.
You know, no one will ever be able to take that away from me.
Yeah.
So it was more excitement just to go on and have some fun. And thankfully, you know, the result of the Georgia game towards the end of the match, kind of the result was taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, you know, so you have an element of freedom there where I'm like, go on, enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, the result's taken care of, just do your thing. And
soak it up kind of thing.
do you know what I mean? And you got your family there, and it's pretty special. Like it's really special, and it's not something that, like I said, you can get taken away from you. Like it'll always be there. But yeah, I think there is that nervous energy, but then for me at that point it became really exciting.
Yeah. Do you think your motivations of now that you're a father, do you think your motivations have now changed a little bit in terms of rugby? Like, are you doing it for your daughter now, if that makes sense?
I mean, I guess as soon as I found out I was going to be a dad, and you know, you only ever have to think about yourself, I think. Growing up, you know, when you start professional sport, whatever, if you're on your own, you're a single person, you leave home, you join a club, all you got to focus on is yourself. I think you know, the realization that you've got someone else to provide for and look after, I think comes at you pretty quickly, and you know, you want to do all you can to support your daughter, your son, and so I guess your motivation does change. I mean, I've got to look after this little girl for as long as I'm around, and
but also yourself, like, because I remember my dad saying when he had my brother, my first kid, he was like, there was a sense of like a mortality that kind of comes over you, because you're like, shit, I need to, like, if without me, this kid doesn't have anyone providing for them, really. So there's like a sense of like, oh, risky situations become all of a sudden increased stakes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you're I don't know, if you're training and it's miserable weather and it's cold and it's this and it's that and it's tough, and you're like, well, okay, you could just take your foot off the gas here or whatever. It's like, for me at this stage of my career is performing, and you perform to get contracts, and that for you is your income and all the rest of it. I mean, there is that added in the back of your head, you know, this isn't going to last forever. You know, something's going to have to come after, and you know, we've not won the Euro Millions, and you know, do you know what I mean? It's you know, whereas other careers, maybe you can look long term and be like, well, I can do this role, this career till I'm
forever
50, 60 and retire, and everything will be settled. Like, that's not the case in sport anyway, where you know, it can come to an end at any point, so you've got to make the most of it whilst you're in it.
Remember Blair saying rugby players almost have a flipped career, because people like have a starting salary, and then they work their way up until they're maybe like, let's say 55, 60, and they're on a bigger salary at that age. Whereas rugby players kind of like, it's flipped. You get a big salary when you're young, but then some rugby players might retire 35, maybe 35, 36. So it's almost like you've reversed it. Yeah, I guess. It's strange. It is. And I think rugby's obviously, it's only been professional for 20, 30 years, I think. Yeah. And it's nothing like football, you know, like it's not millions as if a week. It's not as if people are getting 300k a week and you can buy property portfolios left, right, and centre. Like that's not the case. Yes, as a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, you can be comfortable and enjoy it and live a good life. But you're so right. Like, come mid-30s, you have to then have a plan because it doesn't last forever. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the challenge. It's a challenge for a lot of rugby players, especially for life after, because that's all they've known, I suppose. And a lot of rugby players, they get picked out of college or out of university, so they don't actually finish the degrees. They just go straight to rugby, and then all of a sudden, rugby's all they know. Yeah. Do you think it's fair that I have a perception that risk should be kind of factored into pay, And I think that the risk that you guys put yourselves under this is just my opinion, but comparatively to football players, is a lot higher.
Well, I have this conversation with my missus quite a lot. when we're like, the Euros are on at the moment, and she's watching the Euros, and it's like, oh, you should get paid more for what you do compared to these guys. And I mean, I agree, but it's never going to happen. It, like, you know, you look at football, the amount of money that's in football. It's a huge spectacle. It's a global game. You know, the amount of people that actually play it, the amount of people that watch it. You know, and then that's kind of how I view it. Like, look at the audiences. That's where the money is. Yeah. And it's just a different game, and it's always been like it's always been that way. Yeah. You know, like, and since I left school, you know, how I've managed to, you know, live and all the rest of it. Like, I would never trade it or complain. I think. Yeah, the biggest difference and the interesting thing is when it comes to an end, like you said, the sort of flipped salary scale or whatever that you potentially meet come the end. And it's something that maybe should be spoke about earlier on in people's careers, I feel. You know, life after. A lot of people say life after, but what does that mean? Like, okay, you could go up to 50 young rugby players who are early 20s and say, do you want to do this uni degree? Do you want to do this uni degree? And I bet you the majority of them would say, no, like, I don't want to study. I don't want to do this. But being smart with what you're earning at that age, it's hard. Early on, it's hard, right? You want to, when you first have these things, you want to enjoy it. You want to go out, you want to buy things, you want to, you know, go on holidays when you can. Magaluf. You know, you want to do these things, so it's very hard. But I think more needs to be put into it, maybe early on, because you know, you then become a dad, or you get to late 20s, 30s, and you come into the end. And now, like me as a guy now with a daughter, and I've lived it, and I'm here now, and it's like, it's at the forefront of my mind. Like, I'm coming closer. 31. You know, it's not going to go on forever, but. Like, you think, oh, imagine if 5-6 years ago I maybe thought about doing this with my money, or doing, do you know what I mean? Potentially you can be in an even better place than what you are. But it's tricky. It's tough to tell someone that's 21, 22 to do this, and this will pay off in 10 years time. Because are you really, like, are you thinking about that? No. You know, you're playing rugby, you're living the dream, you're playing professional sport, that's your job. Like, it's very easy to get carried away with that, I think.
If you weren't a rugby player, what do you think you would go into? Do you have any idea?
I haven't got a clue. Like, it genuinely, like, it, and it, I mean, I laugh. It's worrying. It's worrying, but it's not worrying. Like, I'm a pretty personable guy. You know, I think I'll be all right. Like, whatever I end up doing after, but. When I say I left school and I went to rugby, like, it's all I know. And that is going to be the challenge, or that's kind of probably one of the biggest stresses on guys finishing if they don't have that nailed down as to what they want to do. Because, like we touched on, it's not going to last forever. You know, you're going to be.
You're pretty good though in terms of injuries. Like, you don't really. Touch wood. Touch wood. But, like, I don't hear of that. Like, I think you broke your foot.
I broke my foot 2019. I did my here's me. I'll touch wood again. Thankfully, I did my ACL. When I was 20, and so I was out for 9 months. And that's been my, like, everyone says you have a big one at some point. And so far, touch wood again. That was like that was my big one, which I managed to, you know, come back from, and you know, thankfully I've been all right since. Definitely helps. But then again, it's one of those games, isn't it? Like, it could be, so you could be fit and healthy. Next minute, you sidestep, or you get hit from a funny angle. And
talking about funny angles, did you see Blair Kinghorn's nose?
I did.
I feel so sorry for him, but that podcast clip that Ryan put up was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, I feel sorry for him, but I don't. I mean, look where he went. He went to Toulouse. I think I saw after they won the league, He's played 14 games, won 14, won Europe, won the French top 14.
He's doing okay.
He's doing all right.
He's doing okay. So it's fine to talk about.
And he lives in Toulouse, and I'm pretty sure the weather's a bit nicer than what it is here. So,
oh my God, I was actually like in stitches. I think Ryan put up like a podcast clip or something, and Blair King, he's a really funny guy.
Yeah, he is.
He is a really funny guy. And just like him talking about how the ref tried to snap it back and then was like, no, you're going to have to go to hospital.
Yeah. I think it was his one of his best mates, Adam Hastings, FaceTimed him, and that picture went online. Yeah, they did a good job, whoever hit him in the nose.
Yeah. Oh, mate. Like, I've broken my nose before, but I've never had it like...
That's the problem with big noses. They're easy to hit, aren't they?
Yeah. But I've got a big nose, and I'd done mine in like really bad. It was rugby actually in school. But Blair has quite like a button nose.
I'll be honest, I'm not really taking much time looking over his nose, but
I had a good look. Yeah, it's so weird. But no, I was so surprised. It was like bad, man. Like it must have been a headbutt or something to the face. Is that the worst injury that you think you could get? Like, no, it's not the worst injury you could get, but it's just the most degrading.
Well, anything on the face, basically. Yeah, protect the face.
Well, the nose as well. It's just like such a delicate
That's why a lot
area.
of people wait till they've then finished their career to get them fixed.
Yeah.
I think he got his fixed though.
Oh, it's perfect now.
Yeah, he's got his fixed. Well, hopefully he doesn't get hit again.
Yeah, it's pretty perfect.
Face.
What's the worst injury you've seen?
Seen
or like heard of?
Thankfully I've not seen it. Oh, actually I have. We'll go. Glasgow were playing Connacht. I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. Glasgow were playing Connacht away in, back then it would have been the Pro 12 or Pro 14. I can't think what it was, but anyway, we're going back sort of probably 8-9 years. And I travelled with the team to Connacht. It's when Finn Russell was at Glasgow, and I remember, I think it was Bundy Aki carried off the first line out of the game, and Xander Fagerson was tail gunner of the line out for us, and Finn obviously was in the 10 channel, and Bundy ran straight up the tubes at Finn, and both Xander and Finn went in for the tackle, and Finn basically Finn and Xander cracked heads. Yeah, it was bad. He ended up with a skull fracture, which was really serious. He had to stay in hospital for a few days. Obviously he's fine.
Yeah, good.
And came out the end of it. But that was a bad one. Just because obviously I'm really close with him, and seeing the way, when someone gets stretchered off the field, his mum and sister and that were in the crowd, and like I made eye contact with them, and it just wasn't nice. It's not nice to see the unknown, especially with your head, and the skull is a pretty precious thing and area of your body. So that was probably the most kind of intense, what's going to happen injury that I've kind of seen or been close to. Thankfully he made a full recovery, and it was quite funny actually. Now that I think about
was it?
No. So about 4 weeks later he was given the all clear.
Is this Finn, right?
Finn.
So it's Finn that had the skull fracture, right? It wasn't the other guy. Okay.
No. Finn had the skull fracture. About 4 weeks later we went on holiday, a few of us, to Ibiza for the summer, and Gregor was the head coach of Glasgow still at the time, and was like, look after him, because he, it was about a month, 5 weeks after. And we get to Ibiza, and it's like, right, everyone for this week, just look after Finn, make sure he's all right. And we get to our villa, and he decides to do a penguin dive into the pool. And what is the first thing that he does when he comes up? He's like, hit my head. Probably shouldn't have done that. Hit my head on the bottom of the pool.
To the shallow end.
And we were like, right. No more penguin. No more penguin dives. Especially with a fresh skull fracture. But no, he's been all good. But in terms of seeing an injury or being around someone that had a pretty serious one, that's up there.
I can imagine it's just like I remember seeing a guy. I think I might have talked about it with Blair potentially in the podcast. This guy called Nick. I was in school. I was playing rugby with him. And I remember this so vividly. A guy called Harry, a pal of mine, went in for a tackle really low because obviously you hit the big guys low, they go down. Just for whatever reason, awkward angle. All we heard was like two, and then Nick lifts up his leg and his ankle's I shit you not, like
both
the wrong way
bones
round.
just snapped.
Yeah, and it was the moment of realization of him looking at his ankle, and then he kind of looked down and looked at his ankle, and then all of a sudden he was like, oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
There's some. It's weird. Like you can see big hits and both guys get up fine. It's like when I did my my ACL, no one touched me. It was a sidestep, and your knee decides to just go. Yeah. There was a guy again going back a few years at Glasgow who we were doing. We were just warming up, and there was like a high jump mat because there's a athletics track at Scotstoun. There's a high jump mat, and one of the boys just decided to do the high jump, but he dislocated his kneecap and like patella tendon was all messed up, like just doing that. Do you know what I mean? It's like little things like that. Where just innocent fun, and next thing
it's also putting like testosterone in a room together. It's like something stupid's gonna happen.
you can't jump that high.
It's like, I bet you can't jump as high as me. Like I think that's part of the fun of rugby though. I think it's like there's this thing that I was listening to the other day that was it was going over life expectancy, and it was essentially saying if you have a bigger social circle, like your social circle is directly linked to your life expectancy.
Right.
So like if you look at men are bad for this because men typically have less friends. Yeah. So 70%. This is a really weird fact that I remember, but 70% of men will say that are in their 70s will say that their wife is their best friend, whereas the flip is on women. So they'd only say that 30% of their best friends are the men because they have bigger social circles, and typically women live longer than men if the man dies. So it's like a really weird thing that I'm even getting at, but. I think that the fact that like the team are together is part of the like fun of rugby. It's like what the boys are going to do that's stupid.
I mean, they always say that like everyone come the end of their career, or if a team wins a big game, and you'd be hard pressed to find someone that probably doesn't say like, I wouldn't be able to do it without my family or my partner, my wife, because we're so lucky. Wherever we go, if we move team mid-season, if we move at the end of a season, whether you're changing country, as part of that team, you then go and you've got 40, 50 new guys that are your teammates, and you've got friends there. Yeah. Whereas if your partner or wife are coming along with you, it's so hard for them, to meet people, to adapt, and you kind of got to be selfish. Like they've got to follow you.
That's what Blair did.
So it's tough on. It is definitely tough on the partners and that side of things, because like you said, we're very lucky. You kind of go around with your band of brothers, traveling here, there, and everywhere. It's great fun.
Would you ever move to I was thinking, it must have been very hard for Blair, or basically everyone that's moved to France to play or wherever. You're in a team that, for the most part, don't speak English. Like they'd speak French amongst themselves. Have you ever thought of that? Like, see if you do go and play for, let's say, France, or do you think you'd find that difficult to like?
I mean, I don't know. I've not been thrown into that kind of environment, but I use examples of people that have. It's worked for some people, and other people it hasn't worked. Again, talking about Finn, he went to Paris, and by the time he left, he was like fluent in French. Do you know what I mean? Like he made the effort to learn it, and by the 3-4 years he was there, he'd learned French, and which is pretty cool. I guess I'm talking in general here, really. If you go to someone's country, I think they appreciate if you do
You need to
attempt.
Make the
you have to make the effort,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to be great, but it's like as long as you're trying, I think that goes a long way. So even if you were French and I was joining a French team and I'm kind of sticking out
Bonjour.
because I can't articulate, I can't have a conversation with someone. I think it goes a long way to try.
Yeah.
And if there's a bit of a crossover, like you get the gist of things.
Yeah.
I reckon. Yeah. Like if I was to do that, I mean, like I can't speak French, but you throw yourself into learning, and I think part of that is at least showing that you're willing to throw yourself into it and try. I think.
Yeah. Who do you normally like? Who are you closest to on the Scotland team?
Well, I'm close with a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys at Glasgow, especially that I've played with for a number of years. And when you live in the same city as well, and you're part of the same club, it's very easy. You're on the same schedules. It's a tough one in terms of if people move away. And I've always found this, I've been at Glasgow most of my career, but for guys that have moved on, it's very hard to maintain probably the kind of relationship you can with maybe friends that aren't within rugby. And I just say that because you've both got your schedules, and generally speaking, weekends are games and everyone's doing their own thing, so it's very hard to find time where you can actually meet, especially if it's a bigger distance, so it becomes hard and to maintain that. But I think when you know guys for a number of years, definitely bonds can be made. And when you go into camp with guys that have moved away, it's like you've not been apart. Do you know what I mean? You can very easily pick that up, but definitely when people move, it becomes a lot harder to
keep in contact. Well, I suppose you have a weird schedule as well. So like when you go, you can take like I suppose a couple of weeks holiday, but people have. Do you know what I mean? You've
again, that's probably the one thing as well. You very rarely can you dictate when your holiday is going to be.
Yeah,
it's basically we're with Edinburgh now, for example, we're back in fairly soon for the start of the new season, and kind of. We've been given an outline of basically what up till January looks like, and you've got your time, and that's kind of it. Exceptional circumstances, things might change, but like that's kind of you set in stone. Now, whether people are getting married or whether there's, or this week off doesn't align with that club's week off, so I can't go on holiday with them, I can't see them. It kind of, it is what it is. It's one of the things you kind of just have to suck up. Like, yes, you get decent time off. Like in the summer now, we've had a few weeks off, but to try and align it, it's luck of the draw, really. As to whether you can, because you can't pick it, and you're not going to say, oh, there's a game this week, but can I just take my week this week? Like. You don't do that, it's not what you do. You work hard to get in a team, and if you were to turn around to the coach and be like, you know what,
bye,
I want to take this week off. Someone else will get a go, and then that could be you, right? Like why it just isn't the way it works.
Yeah. And have you taken any extra time off with the little one? Is that allowed? Like,
well, actually, I think it is, obviously.
Yeah.
Like if your partner goes into labour, you drop anything and you go and be there. Edinburgh actually had 2 away games to South Africa during Luna's due date. So, South Africa's not just around the corner. It's going to take a day to get there and a day to get back. So in terms of things like that, Edinburgh were brilliant, and I think any club would be pretty supportive of that, and it just so happened that it fell in the middle of Edinburgh being away for 2 weeks. So Luna came along in the middle of that, which was pretty ideal. We then got the following week where the Edinburgh boys were still away, and I can just be at home. Then I guess it's kind of back into it, as guys or as the dads. There isn't a huge amount you can do, and at the same time you have to keep going, you have to keep working, and it's quite nice. Yeah, it's nice to kind of stay in the loop and keep moving. You know, I found that anyway. But to have that first week undisturbed was it was lucky timing, just with how the weeks fell and the games fell. But I know guys that have gone away for the birth of their child and then they played 2 days later. You know, it is done.
Yeah.
But you've done all the work. You know, I think leading up to the birth as well, you kind of carry on training.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those. It's one of those things you don't know. Well, I guess unless you're booking in for like a C-section and you know exactly when it's going to happen, it's one of the unknowns. It's like you're sitting around and it's like you've got to try and carry on as normal. Yeah. Until baby decides it wants to come and see the world. Yeah.
How have you been training since the kid? Because we were talking a bit earlier about how you're traveling from Glasgow to Edinburgh. That's an hour, and then I'm guessing you have to do baby duties in the morning as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, thankfully Luna sleeps really well. Yeah. Overnight, we've got a pretty good routine, and it's one of them things. It can change at any moment. She can suddenly decide that doesn't want to sleep. No, she doesn't want to sleep. But as it stands, she sleeps really well. We've got a good routine, and if I always said, like, commuting through, if I have to get up an hour earlier to get through, like, it's something that I'm prepared to do, and we're going to continue doing. But as it stands, she kind of wakes up a similar time to what I would, and
good.
You know, she'll have a feed after she slept through the night, and we hope that she goes back to sleep for another couple of hours, so Annie can get more sleep, and I obviously go off to work. So it's not too bad. Do your day's training, come home. I think that's the biggest difference. Is like you can't. You know, I think before she came along, you'd come home if it was a long day and you kind of just put your feet up and it's like, right, long day, have some dinner and chill and go to bed. Whereas you come through the door and you've not done your duties all day. So you have a 3-4 month year old to entertain and keep going. But like I said, you kind of just adapt. You just do it. You have to. There's no like
ifs or buts.
No, you can't just be like, nah, just put her down and leave her. Like, that's your little girl. You know what I mean? Like, you want to do it. You have to do it. You know?
Yeah. Well, why do you think the switch happened between, obviously maybe good timing with the kid on the way as well, but between Glasgow and Edinburgh? Was it just a timing thing where you just?
No, it was an interesting one. Obviously, the World Cup happened end of last summer. Yeah. And I went back to Glasgow. I had a bit of an issue with my groin, so I hadn't played. And it just got put to me, and my agent got in contact with me, just asking if I'd be interested in going across to Edinburgh. And I've never been one to kind of sit around and just just be content. I was almost at the stage anyway of maybe wanting
a change,
a new environment, just something a bit different, and it got put to me and I kind of was like, you know what, let's see what it's about, why not, and sort of spoke to the head coach at Edinburgh, and he would have loved for me to come and join them and all the rest of it, and that's kind of all I had to do really. I sort of said I was open to it, and it just unfolded, and you know, within the sort of next 2 or 3 weeks it had happened, and I was through there, and it was a strange one. It kind of happened really, really quickly, but in terms of them being in a new environment, you know, it gives you, even though I know a lot of the boys at Edinburgh anyway, and it is only 50 minutes down the road, like it's not miles away, but just that change of environment, change of voices, it was refreshing.
Freshens up.
You know, and maybe it was something I was looking for and needed. I really enjoyed it. We were joking, but since then Glasgow seemed to have done all right as well. So you know, everyone's happy.
Yeah. How have Edinburgh? Well, I mean, Glasgow have been playing well, but how do you think Edinburgh's been getting on?
I would say if you're a supporter of Edinburgh, you would be very frustrated, and I think we share that frustration because, again, the kind of quality of players within that Edinburgh squad, you know, we would feel we could emulate and do what Glasgow have done this year, and we feel like we could push for that. We have the ability to push for that, and it's frustrating because our results don't suggest that we are capable of it. You know, it's soft moments in games that we probably should win, and we end up losing, and you know, little things like that I think are frustrating for supporters and also for us as players, especially how our season finished. You know, we were in a position where you go into the last game and it's must win to make the top 8, you know, and we're all saying, you know, we're a better team than being sort of 10th or 9th on the table. But, you know, the table doesn't lie at the end of the day. That's what our performances produced. So yeah, frustrating, but you know, watching what Glasgow did, especially through the knockout stages of this season and going on to win it, you know, it gives me a lot of fuel to be like why can't we challenge? Why can't I be part of a team that achieves what they did? You know, moving forward, and hopefully, you know, when we go back in at the start of the new season in the next couple of weeks, you know, there's that buy-in from everyone.
Yeah. Fresh start.
Yeah, you know, it's a fresh start. You know, in sport, you're very lucky. You either get an opportunity the following week to put things right, or, you know, you get a blank slate at the start of the new season. Everyone's on 0-0-0-0-0, and, you know, you go from there. And hopefully, the mentality from the boys coming in right from the off is to carry the team into a better place next season, you know. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it's all there. But there's one thing saying it.
Yeah,
another thing doing it.
Chisholm Hunter are the sponsors of the Into the Mind podcast, and without Chisholm Hunter, we would not be sitting here today. So I'm going to talk about them just for a second. They're a family-run jewellers that have been going for over 165 years. They specialise in fine jewellery, and they're actually world-renowned for their fine jewellery and diamonds, and luxury watches. Stuff like Omega, that I have on at the moment. They do Tudor, they do Blancpain, they do Vacheron Constantin. Pretty much everything you can think of, they probably do it. So if you're looking for something for yourself or a loved one, head to chisholmhunter.co.uk. And while you're there, use the discount code CHSUB, that's CHSUB, for an exclusive 10% off selected lines. That is chisholmhunter.co.uk. That is chisholmhunter.co.uk. And on that note, back to the podcast. I think this is quite an important point. We were chatting about like social media and some of the criticism that people then can get, whether that's losing a game or doing something. I mean, we've all done stuff that's silly, you know, drop a ball, I don't know, whatever it is, just leave it. It'll be Amazon. You drop a ball or whatever it is. How do you deal with like social media criticism, if there's any?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is some. It's a tough one. I think you have to go through it and learn from it, because I always go back and I said a few things nearer the time. In 2018, I got picked to start for Scotland against Wales at the start of the Six Nations. And it was a big deal. At the start of the tournament, I'd been given the nod to start at 9. And I remember we lost the game pretty comfortably. It was a bad performance, but I threw an interception, and then I got free kicked for a squint feed 5 meters from our own line, which led to Wales scoring another try. And up to that point, I'd kind of been on a steep upward curve. You know, everything was going for me.
Playing well.
I'd been playing well for my club. I'd started playing internationally, and, you know, everything had been going well. And then suddenly I had that performance, and I was always one to go in to the change room after a game, go on your phone and, oh, Ali did this,
Twitter,
blah, 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 you know, he was brilliant, you know, great season. And so I always did it. And then I remember having that game, and suddenly, you know, obviously the Six Nations, whether you're a rugby fan or not, a lot more people seem to have an opinion and watch it. And, you know, there's people saying that I needed to refund their ticket money and I should never play again. And you know, at that point, it was the first time I'd had kind of this
Hate.
kind of hate or criticism or people having a negative opinion of me. And it got to me, like mentally it got to me, in terms of your confidence, question whether you're good enough and all this kind of stuff. But I'd never had it before. And then so that was the first game of that Six Nations. And then I was on the bench for the rest of the tournament, and played my part. Don't get me wrong. Kind of made it through the tournament, but I wasn't the same player that I was at the start of the tournament. And I kind of went back to Glasgow again, wasn't in great form at all. And yeah, it was something that I had to go through, because then, like we said about natural breaks coming and you can start a new season. I went on the summer tour with Scotland, which was the last time they went to Canada and America, and I got injured in the first game against Canada. Not like serious, but that was the end of my tour. And I sort of came home, and the injury was to do with my adductor, and I basically just had to rest for 4 to 6 weeks. So no running, nothing, just rest. And it was like in my head, it's strange, and I've been able to do it since, which is obviously brilliant, but it was like a reset. Mm-hmm. And I was like, right, I've now got 2 months till the start of the next season to just sort myself out, get myself in great shape, and just attack the new season and see how we get on. And I kind of, again, built myself back up. And I had to go through what I went through after that game mentally to be able to be in a better position after it. It was strange. Like, everyone loves smoke being blown up your ass and all the rest of it, but when it's not, and when it turns the other way, when you've not like had it directed at you, you don't know how you react. But I didn't react in a good way. But after that, I was like, okay, use it as fuel whenever these things aren't permanent. You didn't get there by chance. Like, you earned your right. You worked hard to be there, and one performance or whatever doesn't define you or how good you are or your ability. And then similar happened. COVID came around. So a couple of years later, COVID comes around, and it was when it initially came into lockdown. So everyone's in their houses, and at the time Fortnite was massive, and Call of Duty, and all the boys have got their headphones on, and we're all just sat there all day just playing. And I remember I'd been like, it was like day drinking, just on your own in your flat playing games. And I was like I'd had like 7 or 8 Copperbergs. I remember these things, like 7 or 8 Copperbergs, and it was like 4 PM or something. I can't remember who I was playing with, but like a couple of the boys were like, "What are you doing? Like, why? Like, what are you doing?" And I just feel like the first 2 weeks of that lockdown, I'd kind of done nothing. I would turn nocturnal, waking up at lunchtime, play PlayStation or whatever, and do you know what I mean? Going to bed at like 1, 2 in the morning. And they were like, "What are you doing?" And again, that was all it took. I was like, right, okay. Yeah. Set an alarm for 9 the next morning and was like, I'm going to run. And I just started running. At the start, it was tough. I'd do like 1-2K and have to stop because I was like, I can't do this. I can't run. But built myself up. I was doing 10K every day and doing half marathon or doing like an hour run and all the rest of it. And really got like a running bug and got into it. But I got super fit. Which then helped me when we got back into rugby. I was in great condition and led round the end of 2020 to 2021 and the Lions getting selected and all the rest of it. And I was in like brilliant shape. And then the Lions happened. Do you know what I mean? It was like these little moments that I remember were like resets. And I always go back to, that one game where I got a bit of abuse and how it affected me. So like ever since then, it's like to believe in yourself, but also I've got the ability to be like, nah, come on, Ali, like flick the switch here. You're letting yourself go. And I think it's natural. Like it's hard, I think sometimes to maintain that focus and constantly throughout the season or throughout your life. But I think once I had that moment, it changed everything in terms of how I deal with it, people's opinions. I mean, now, like with X and Twitter and all the rest of it, it's an absolute minefield.
Yeah.
Like 99.9% of these people will never do what you do, but they have an opinion on it. So like, what why are you valuing that? Why are you letting that get to you when you've worked so hard to, and I always think with sport, it's a funny one. Like when teams get named or whatever, and it's like, why is so-and-so playing? And it's very, very easy to be like, read it and be like, oh, damn, like, why do these people think that? But like, you don't pick yourself as a player. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's you don't pick yourself. You work hard day in, day out, and a coach or one person makes a decision for that week or for a tournament or whatever. And I think to take that personally, I mean, it's easier said than done, but you shouldn't. Like, you should just have confidence in you've been picked because you've worked hard and someone's seen something. Yeah. For you to deserve that. Do you know what I mean?
Have you just removed social media?
No, I still have it.
Yeah.
I mean, lately a lot more of it is to do with family and my missus obviously is big on social media in terms of her career and what she does, which I fully support, and a lot of stuff to do with the family now is going up on there, but no, I wouldn't say I'm not like crazy on it. Yeah. I have Twitter and I like browsing through and seeing, what's going on in the world and stuff like that. But in terms of taking things to heart or engaging with people, it's not something that I choose to do. I feel you give people oxygen when you engage. If someone's got an opinion that you don't like or is negative towards you, I feel like you can't win. So what's the point of fueling their fire? Whatever you say, they're going to come back with something else, and I don't. Who needs that? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm happy. Yeah. I love my life. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't engage. I don't engage, but like I do. Yeah.
It's that thing though. It's like, have you ever had any negative encounters with people that have actually come up and spoke to you in person? Probably not, I'm guessing.
No.
It's like, so people hide behind the screen and then like keyboard warriors and
that's it.
Type it out.
That's it.
A pal of mine asked, and I need to ask for him, his name's Leon. He said, who can sink the fastest pint that you know? Ooh. I had to ask.
I haven't got a clue. Yes, I do know. So there's a young lad at Edinburgh called Ben Muncaster.
Oh, I've heard of him before. Yeah.
So Ben Muncaster. Here's a little story. End of season with Edinburgh, we went to Newcastle, and just for a day and a night, and it was obviously the first time I'd been to one of a Edinburgh end of season social. But they had something called a yellow jersey, which I found interesting. Like Tour de France, yellow jersey is the leader of the race. Yeah. And basically it's like a cycling jersey, yellow jersey. And if you have that, then you can be challenged to a chop off basically. And if you win, you keep the yellow jersey, right? And you get tallied up. Yeah. And Benny Muncaster smashed it.
Really?
Smashed it, yeah. It was very impressive actually. And the following morning, day 2, he was still doing the same thing. So no, I would say he was very impressive. I never held the yellow jersey.
Talk about putting testosterone in a room.
No, it was good crack. It was good fun.
Is there any other stories? I mean, I know that you guys have been to Ibiza. We met in Magaluf with who was it? Jamie Batty. Yeah, I saw him the other day. He was in, where the hell was he? I think he was in Sugo. It was his missus in Sugo. Yeah. Lovely guy. Jimmy's such a nice guy.
He's getting married next month.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Right. Okay. So it was his missus that he was with then. Yeah. Okay. Who's he playing with now?
He's still at Glasgow.
But
he went down to Bath, I think. But he's come back up. He's been at Glasgow. He had a really good season.
Yeah. I think
last year.
Was he in the Scotland squad?
He's not in the summer tour squad,
Right.
But he was in the Six Nations and the World Cup. Yeah,
Yeah, he's a big boy.
big lad.
He's a big lad. He's a big lad. He's a really cool guy. I remember meeting him at in Magaluf. He was really sound. But what was I saying? What were we talking about? I can't even remember.
I don't know. I think you want me to tell you some stories, but I don't know. I don't know if I've got any more to tell you.
Yeah, okay. I'm probably not allowed to hear them. I was hearing a interesting story. It was. I think it was Dewey that was talking about it, about Finn, and about Finn is like, he's so talented. He's incredible at rugby, but you wouldn't, by looking at him, you wouldn't be like, oh, he's the best, one of the best rugby players in the world. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't have that, like, I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but he doesn't have that physique. Like he's incredibly talented, amazing. But I think he puts in so much more work than what people kind of see. Do you see that from him in terms of
100%?
What does he do in terms of?
In terms of how he views a game.
Yeah.
If you were with him throughout a week leading up to a match, sort of the work he does off the field to see where his opportunities are going to be, or where the team's opportunities are going to be. Watching a game with him is different to watching it at home or in any other way. Like what he sees compared to what I would see watching it. You look for different things, but he's very good off the field in terms of driving what he wants, and what he's got the ability to pull things off. So. He does a lot off the field, and I mean he's someone that in the position he's in, he's not going for jackals left, right, and centre. He's not having to carry over the top of people. So I think it's all comparable. Like if he. Yeah, I mean, he's like feel good, play good. Do you know what I mean? And he's got the ability to do that. If he feels good, come a game, that's all that matters, right? He's gonna make his tackles. He's gonna do his basics well. So like, if he feels good and his legs are fresh, I guess that's what's important. Yeah. For someone like Finn, anyway.
Yeah. He's still playing it so well. Yeah. It's unreal.
I've never seen a guy go to a new club.
Yeah.
And transform them into the side that they are. They made the Premiership final, and I think they finished 8th or 9th in the league the year before. But just the way he came in, and I think it shows the kind of guy he is, that suddenly everyone was talking about the players around him, and he's the kind of guy that can go into a team and he can bring out the best of others. Yeah. I think I don't know many people that would have been able to do that. Yeah. You go into a team and suddenly everyone's talking about 6 or 7 players. And it's because of how he's pulling strings and, probably what he's trying to get out of them behind the scenes. Do you know what I mean? I think that kind of shows who he is.
I think as well, he's probably so well respected because he works incredibly hard. One of the hardest working rugby players in the world, and that's hence why he is where he is. But he also plays hard, right? He parties when he needs to. He celebrates success. Dewey was telling me a story that he was saying, I think Duan went into the gym and Finn was sitting analysing a game, and Duan was in the gym for 2 hours or something, and he came out and he was still sitting in the same position, still analysing the game, which is wild. Do you do that?
I wouldn't say to that extreme.
Yeah.
No, I think as a 10, when you're running a lot of the shape and the back shape through you, it can take a lot of time to go through different games. I think as a 9, it's maybe more around looking at your opportunities, or maybe what a team does with their defence in terms of folding and taking short sides. Yeah. You can probably get through that a bit quicker than watching the majority of the game in terms of general trends for a team. Wouldn't. But I think a lot of Finn. People see or hear about the Finn post game or whatever, but I think people let off steam in different ways, don't they? And I think if you understood the kind of mental strain more than anything, and it's a mental thing that someone like Finn would go through prepping every week for a game. I think to have a release is healthy, you know,
extremely.
and people do it in different ways, right? Like if you want to have a couple of beers and just forget about rugby and just chat shit with your mates and all the rest of it, like, and then go to sleep, wake up the next day, it's a new day. Do you know what I mean? I think the mental strain is probably bigger than the physical a lot of the time, especially as backs. You know, forwards might be different. If you've had a physical game where you're running into a brick wall the whole match, you'd be pretty tired. But I think in terms of backs, you know, shouldering the game plan, shouldering, you know, how you're going to run the team, I think mentally it can be a lot and can be heavy. So I think it's important to have that release, the switch off. You know, if some people want to just go spend time with their family and I don't know, take the dog for a walk or this or that could be their way of just de-stressing. Some people like to have a beer and just chill out in the evening. Do you know what I mean? I think it's different, but I would say that's kind of mentally to be able to switch off, I think it's important.
Yeah, and there's always a perception. Like I feel like everyone has an opinion on probably you, like from like Finn or like Blair, whoever you might be talking about. But I know most of you. Yeah, you're all lovely guys. Like people have a perception that, and it's probably because they've seen, like, I remember there was a video that went live of was it Greg Laidlaw when he was playing and he was like ripping his shirt off in the club? Did you see this? Like people have a perception of you guys because of that kind of video. Yeah. But that's not really what you're like. You know, you're just letting off steam and you're celebrating the success that you've had. Who is I was going to ask you this because I've asked Duhan and also Blair this. Who's the most intimidating player in the sport? Like, see if you came up against him on a rugby pitch, you'd be like, fucking hell, like, I don't want to tackle this guy.
There's probably a few.
Yeah.
I think I saw Duan said, who did he say? It was a Fijian guy, wasn't it?
It was Albert Tuasui. Was it maybe Albert Tuasui, or was that Blair? Oh, I can't remember, but I looked the guy up after and he, oh my God, humongous.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm quite a slight guy myself, so most players are bigger than me. If I remember, Glasgow played against Montpellier a few years ago, and they had a guy called Namani Ndolo, who was a winger. And I was on the edge of the defence, and he caught the ball on his wing. And it's one of them ones where you just have to kind of put your head in the spokes and hope for the best, because you can't not attempt. You
can't run it.
It's one of those ones where it was like,
this is my guy.
Like I have to try and do something. So yeah, he was a pretty good ball carrier.
Is he a big boy?
Yeah, he's a big boy. You have to look him up as well. I had another one against Will Skelton. I don't know if you know Will Skelton. Again, he broke the line and I was covering him behind. And it's one of those ones where you just have to kind of accept that it's science, isn't it?
Something big is running at me.
They're two that I can think of. And it's one of them ones you can't just wave them past. You have to. You need to make an attempt. You have to just suck it up. But not pleasant.
Is there teams that you like go? I suppose it's hard when you're playing at such a competitive level, but is there teams that you go up against and then after the game you're like, do you want to grab a beer? Like, or is it still quite split? Like I can imagine when you're going up against England, if you're playing for Scotland, you go up against England, there's like increased hype around it. There's increased anxiety around it because of all the media coverage. But like after the game, are you kind of like, oh yeah, let's go get a beer, we're sound?
Yeah, with a lot of teams that is the case, you know. And you get to know the guys fairly well if you play against them for a few years, you know, and you play against their club or whatever, and you come across them a couple of times a year. Look, once the game's done, You know, if there's if it's an international and there's a post-match function, you know, everyone's upstairs.
Yeah.
You grab a beer, you know, how they're getting on with the family or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's very amicable.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a good thing. Like on the field, it's, you know, you represent your team and you do what you can to win, but you know, everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah.
Come the end, do you know what I mean? So yeah, to just have a beer or whatever and catch up is quite nice sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the teams I've come across, that's been the case. It's not as if it's just, oh no, I hate these guys.
Yeah.
We're leaving.
That guy tackled me.
Yeah.
I think the game's changed a lot though. Like when I think back to, well, I'm still quite young. I'm 26, but when I think back to when I was like maybe like 17 or 18, there seemed to be a lot more like physical fights. Like I remember speaking to Jim Hamilton about this. He was like, the game's changed so much that you just can't do that anymore.
No.
Like you just can't fight. Do you think that will continue? Like, are you in agreement with all the kind of laws that they're bringing around? Obviously, head injuries are a huge thing.
Yeah.
So they're bringing in tons of more laws about that. Are you kind of in agreement with everything they're bringing in?
Yeah. On the whole, yeah. Like, I mean, the game needs to be as safe as it can be.
Yeah.
I think the beauty of rugby is the physicality. It makes it different from a lot of other sports and team sports that you can play. But obviously anything to make the game safe or in terms of player welfare, I think is definitely worthwhile. Yeah, and you said about, you know, fighting or getting trod on, or, you know, growing up you used to see people getting spat out the back of rocks because they've got 14 pairs of studs going through their ribs, and you know, it was exciting. You're watching it. I'm glad it stopped, obviously. Like, but you can't. Yeah, I mean, it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
With the card system, and you know, you can't, if someone's gonna take a 4-week ban for punching in the face, well, you've just harmed your own team. You've not. Do you know what I mean? You've not done anything. You've not achieved anything. Do you know what I mean? So I mean, it's cleaner in that aspect.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But yeah, anything to do with, I mean, the science is a tricky one, because I know a lot of the doctors, and especially when you talk about medicine and what has caused certain brain injuries and stuff like that, but we know for a fact that getting bashed in the brain too much is not good. It's not good for anyone. So I think anything to decrease the chances of that, or to make, you know, the game safer. I mean, they're bringing in new things around clearing out to try and protect guys' knees and stuff like that. You know, you want athletes on the field. You want to see the best players playing, and I think you know, if we can keep guys out of the physio room and on the field, you know, that's why we all do it. You don't play the game to be in rehab for 2/3 of the year. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Did they do something with? I'm sure I've heard this. Did they do something with the try lines, like the making them smaller?
That depends. So there's I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's guidelines around a rugby field length and width.
Yeah.
And the dead ball also has that. So between the try line and the dead ball, I think there is a range that it can be, and it's down to the home team as to what range they want it to be. So like, if a team doesn't want you to kick in behind, for example, you would make it shorter. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
All within the range or the regulations. But I as far as I'm aware, it's like at the home team's discretion as to, you know.
Right.
So you could be like, oh, we've got a plan to, you know, turn the defense, put it in behind them. So you maybe would want a bigger dead ball, because there's less chance that the ball will go dead, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I think there's just a range on that.
I never knew that. I thought, because I always remember seeing games and thinking that like looks either bigger or smaller, but that's probably why, right?
I mean, it could be, yeah. I don't know what the range is, but it'll be a couple of meters, so you would noticeably see the difference.
Yeah. All right. Okay, that makes more sense. And what do you think's next for you? Like, what in terms of your career? You've obviously joined a different club, but what do you think's next? Like, what are you going for?
What am I going for? I think the main thing for me is enjoyment. At this point, I think I'm very content with, and I feel I've overachieved in my career to date. And so for me, it's enjoyment. If I'm enjoying it, wherever I am, if I'm enjoying it, I'll play my best, and all of the above comes off the back of playing well and enjoying it. And at this stage in my career where, hopefully there's 3, 4, 5 years left, if I'm enjoying it, that's what it's all about. And if that happens and you play well and I'm still running around with a smile on my face, then you look further, international stuff continues and all the rest of it. Do you know what I mean? But I think you learn very quickly that that's not a given, and that shouldn't be your main focus. That's a bonus. I think for me now I've realized that, but it's like, as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, I'll get the best out of myself. And if I'm doing that, then I put myself in a great position for anything above that. Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
So yeah, that's kind of how I see it. That's my outlook, especially for sort of the next few years, and wherever that takes me. Again, like I said, as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, then I'd keep going, and help out when I can at home, and
you'll be there the whole time.
watch my little girl grow up. It'd be pretty cool.
It will be cool. And in terms of, so you've obviously got the future of rugby, but have you thought, I know we talked a bit about earlier, but is there anything that you have in mind for like after rugby? I mean, it's still a good way away, but is there anything you see or no?
Yeah, it's a strange one. Like my missus wants to start a business, and I'm fully supportive of that. And it's something that we can probably go into together, which would be quite nice. I enjoy this. I enjoy talking and meeting people. And when I'm talking about something that I'm passionate about, or I have some knowledge of, that I feel can help, I feel like I've got a lot to offer in that aspect. But in terms of something concrete, like when I was growing up, I really wanted to do this. I've never had that, and it's something when you start to wind down in terms of playing, you can probably give more time to
try new stuff,
to trying new things, and you have more time to experience maybe what you want to do for the next 20 years of your life. Do you know what I mean? But it's the funny one. You kind of, as rugby players, your life potentially you have to try and start again in your mid-30s.
Hit reset.
But we'll see. It's for me, whatever I do, as long as I enjoy it, I'll give it my all. Yeah,
and you've got tons of guys around you. Like I can see a lot of them that are diversifying their kind of portfolios, and I'm sure they can help you out where they can. And kind of
I think that's something as well. I mean, it molds you into a pretty decent guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got brilliant experience, albeit within sport, but in terms of the characteristics and the qualities that you kind of gain and grow and use within rugby, can be very valuable wherever you take it. You turn out fairly decent. Do you know what I mean? So we'll see.